guitar would seem to be a relatively modern invention. Indeed, the guitar as we know it dates back only to the 1870s. Guitars of earlier pattern existed for approximately 2 centuries, though, even prior to Antonio Torres's 1870 design, and enjoyed one of the largest repertoires of any instrument. So when, then, did our love affair with the sound of the guitar begin? No one knows with any certainty how or when man first learned that the plucked string could produce music. Historians and anthropologists surmise that the concept dates to the invention of the bow and arrow. It is felt that primitive man appreciated the twang of the bowstring and possibly incorporated this sound into pre-hunt ritual ceremony. This sound has been refined through time, distilled into those modern stringed instruments in use today, in particular for our study, the guitar. The early stringed instruments as known today consisted of hunting bows to which gourds had been attached. These gourds served as resonating chambers, an attempt to amplify the sound produced. Early instruments of this type are referred to as chordophones, or string vibrators. The guitar traces its roots back to these earliest chordophones. However, we will begin our overview of the instrument with its most direct predecessor, the lute. Lute-like chordophones date back as far as 2000 BC. They first appear in Mesopotamia, where they are known as pantur. These lutes belong to a family of instruments having long necks. They made their way to Egypt and Greece in approximately 1500 BC and eventually were brought to Persia. In Persia, they became known as sitar, denoting a 3-stringed instrument, kartar having 4 strings, and a panktar with 5 strings. Now, Greek lutes had a sound chest consisting originally of a tortoise shell covered with stretched leather, resulting in a vaulted back joined directly to a flat soundboard. The long-necked lutes of the earliest periods are still in use today, in the form of the Arabic tanbur and the Indian tamburi. It was in Persia that lutes with the more familiar proportions originally appeared. We know of these through clay figurines dating to about 800 BC. These short-necked lutes have necks formed by the tapering of the body. The division between the neck and the body is unclear. The short-necked lute made its way from Persia to India, and from there to China. Today it is still to be found in China as the pipa. A short-necked lute is also found in Japan, where it is known as a biwa. If any one person can be credited with the introduction of the instrument to India and China during the first few centuries AD, it would have to be a popular religious sect leader of the name Mani. Mani was born circa 216 AD, and he was of Iranian nobility. He was raised under the influence of an eclectic Babylonian Christian cult. When he was approximately 25, he claimed to have a new enlightened religion revealed to him. This religion borrowed heavily from Buddhism and Iranian mythology and was also mixed with Christian teaching. This religion's main interest to us today is that it was the only religion of its time to cultivate a lively personal relationship with the arts and its practitioners. Mani expressly required that his adherents steep themselves in poetry, music, and painting. Around 270 AD, things started to turn sour for Mani. When he returned to his native Persia and the court of Shapur I, he was forced to flee to avoid arrest, and in 276 AD he was captured by the Zoroastrian Magi, who proceeded to flay him alive. His skin was then stuffed and put on public display. This makes modern music critics seem very tame by comparison. An ivory dating from 968 AD and now residing in the Louvre is perhaps the oldest piece of evidence enabling us to establish the presence of the lute in Europe. By the 9th century AD, the lute was known in Europe, but it did not enjoy any real popularity outside Spain until the Renaissance. The Moorish invasions of Spain brought many Arabic styles of music, art, and architecture to Spain. The Arab influence on music included the introduction of the lute. It is from the Arabic short lute that the instrument we usually associate with the term evolved. Even the word lute itself stems from the Arabic name oud, or al-oud. from which the Spanish formed the term laud. All the European languages base their word for lute on this term. The oud was still far from the instrument we speak of as a lute. For one thing, the neck was still not a separate entity from the body. Also, the oud had two crescent sound holes, much like viols of the same period. The transformation to a distinct neck and single central sound hole probably took place in Spain towards the close of the 14th century. This is the lute that made its way to the rest of Europe. Please listen while I perform two Renaissance lute pieces on the classical guitar.